Hi, this is Mr. Curran. Looks like you missed one of my classes. During that class, we talked about the 9 principles of design. So let's see what you missed. So we used this list of the principles of design, which was found from the Getty Foundation. The principles of design are really about how you arrange or utilize the different elements of art in your artwork. So it's the way you use things like color and shape and form and texture, those different elements, and you arrange them within your piece of art. That's the principles. There's 9 of them, so we went over them in class. We talked about movement, balance, unity, rhythm, variety, pattern, emphasis, proportion, and repetition. We then defined them and then made our own definitions and then found an example of the word in the room. This is how we did it. So let's start with movement. So the Getty Foundation says movement is the path the viewer's eye takes through the work of art, often to focal areas. Such movement can be directed along lines, edges, shape, and color within the work of art. We thought that was a little wordy, so we tried to simplify it a little bit. We came up with, it's how your eye moves around a piece of art. And then when we looked around the room, we tried to find an example of movement. And we found this poster that's on my door. So it's a good example of movement because your eyes have to travel from hand to hand and then you read the text in the opposite corners. So my eye moves all over this poster to understand it, so there's a lot of movement here. Next, we talked about balance. Balance is the distribution of the visual weight of objects, colors, textures, and space. If the design was a scale, these elements should be balanced to make a design feel stable. We simplified that to say, it's the even distribution of stuff in an artwork. The example we found was this Captain Marvel poster. It's a good example of balance since the figure and the tagline and the logo are centered between these 2 even shapes of the doors on the side. Next up is unity. Unity is that feeling of harmony between all parts of the work of art, which creates a sense of completeness. We decided to say it's when stuff goes together well. The example we found is this poster of a sculpture by Kevin Beasley, and it's a good example of unity because you can see how all those jerseys seem to go together really well. And also there's this added feature of these repeating horizontal lines that add a nice extra connector between the piece. Next we talked about rhythm. Rhythm is created when one or more elements of design are used repeatedly to create a feeling of organized movement. Rhythm creates a mood, like music or dancing. To keep the rhythm exciting and active, variety is essential. And we said, rhythm's when it's that mood or feeling created by repeated elements. The example we found is this sculpture by Tara Donovan. It's a good example because you can notice that the wavy repeating lines and how these wavy repeated lines create this sense of smooth or a flowy mood. Next is variety. Variety is the use of several elements of design to hold the viewer's attention and to guide the viewer's eye through and around the work of art. We said it's lots of different stuff that keeps the work interesting. If you can find this poster, we thought this was a good example. It's every single letter is very different. So it's taking something like the ABCs and making it more interesting. Next is pattern. Pattern is the repeating of an object or symbol all over the work of art. Or it's repeating a specific series of things. This portrait by Amy Sherald is a good example. So if you look specifically at the dress, the black and white design could continue off into infinity. And that's really what makes it into a pattern. That'll come up later with repetition. There's a slight difference. Next is emphasis. Emphasis is the part of the design that catches the viewer's attention. Usually the artist will make one area stand out by contrasting it with other areas. The areas could be different in size, color, texture, shape, etc. We said it's drawing attention to something in the artwork. For example, outside my door, there's this illustration from Peter Reynolds, and it's a good example of emphasis because you can see that the spiral of the paintbrush brings your attention to that figure at the center. Next is proportion. Proportion is the feeling of unity created when all parts, sizes, amounts, or number relate well with each other. When drawing the human figure, proportion can refer to the size of the head compared to the rest of the body. We said it's the relationship between different parts of an artwork. The example we used was this Bob Ross Funko Pop doll, because the head is purposely out of proportion. It's called a caricature, and it draws your attention to some of the features that make the Bob Ross character stand out. And it's out of proportion from the rest of his body. Repetition. Repetition works with pattern to make the work of art seem active. The repetition of elements of design creates unity within the work of art. So its parts of the artwork happen over and over. An example was this painting on one of our cabinets. These designs are good examples of repetition because the shapes and colors both occur over and over again. However, it's not a pattern because it's not a specific repeating quality. So it's just a repeating of circles and white shapes and blue shapes and a blue background and a white background. So those were our 9. Let's review. Movement is how your eye moves around a piece of art. Balance is that even distribution of stuff in an artwork. Unity means stuff goes together well. Rhythm is the mood or feeling created by repeated elements. Variety is lots of different stuff that keeps the work interesting. Pattern, it's a repeating of a specific series of things. Emphasis, it's when you draw attention to something in the artwork. Proportion, the relationship between different parts of the artwork. And repetition, where the parts of the artwork happen over and over. And here were the examples we found from the classroom. See if you can see them when you come back to class. So what are the 9 principles of design? Movement, balance, unity, rhythm, variety, pattern, emphasis, proportion, and repetition. Thanks for watching. Those are our 9 principles of design. We'll see you in class next time.